Thank you for joining us. This is Live with Miami's Community News. And I'm with Dr. William Portnoy, who's going to talk to us about all sorts of things medical. And we're going to talk about your favorite thing about ear, nose, and throat, and then also about general health and plastic surgery. So welcome to Miami. So you moved down here from New York a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And you have an interesting business model. You're a plastic surgeon focusing on this part right here, but you're also a big ENT guy, that's ear, nose, and throat guy.
Yes.
For the average person, what goes on in this space here that makes what you do so important?
Well, I mean, the face and the head and neck in general is our domain as ear, nose, and throat physicians, or we call ourselves otolaryngologists.
So say that 5 times really fast.
Otolaryngologists. So I think it's really critical for the public to understand what we do. I mean, the importance of the anatomy of the head and neck really is paramount. So when you come to see an ENT doctor, we're concerned not just about the function of your nose and the other related organs, your ears and your throat, but some doctors like myself also are concerned about the aesthetics, and it can be difficult to separate the function from the aesthetics. So I do a lot of facial plastic surgery in conjunction with my practice as a general otolaryngologist.
Could you say that a couple more times?
General otolaryngologist.
I'm not even going to try for that. And neither is Danny, all right? We're just going to leave it to you.
Okay.
All right, so lots of people, when they have allergies or they perceive it as allergies, they would go to, do they go to an allergist or do they go to somebody like you to start off?
I think probably people end up seeing their primary care physician, or maybe they'll slip into a MD now or something like that, and then they ultimately will be referred either to an allergist or to an ENT. And we don't necessarily do the same things, and our focus of the examination is a little bit different, but we're very concerned about what's going on inside the nose. Does a patient have polyps obstructing their nasal airway? Is there evidence of chronic sinusitis, or is it purely just allergies, which would be sort of assessed by the allergist with skin testing and then possibly treated with immunotherapy, which are shots that are given.
So if somebody, let's say it's allergy season, then people are all worked up, they're all stuffed up, they go to the doc because it's out of control.
Right.
Is that typically when they go, oh, you got something up your nose?
Yeah, that's often the presentation. So they'll come in, we'll examine their nose, and we might identify that they actually have some obstruction. We can treat them with typically antibiotics. Sometimes we put people on oral steroids to help reduce the inflammation and open up the sinuses. If there's evidence of polyps or obstruction of the sinuses, we'll often refer the patient for a CAT scan to get a better sense of what's going on beyond what we could actually see inside the nose.
So what's the connection between an allergy and a growth in there and sleep apnea?
That's a great question. I think chronic allergies will often lead to the formation of polyps. Polyps are kind of like grapes that form inside the nose and or in the sinuses, and they can lead to chronic sinus infections. If you have significant blockage of your nose and breathing, it often will exacerbate or lead to obstructive sleep apnea. And that's something that an ENT doc would be able to diagnose.
If more of us could look at the anatomy of the head and realize that connection.
Yes.
It's this whole absolute connection to everything, but in here, it's not too far away.
Correct. I think that, they say it's all related, the ears, the nose, throat. It is actually just one related system. And yeah.
So frequently people will tell me, if I use some spray without naming a particular one, it's good for a while, but then there's the bounce back. Explain why,
yes.
how and why that happens.
Well, in general, people are using 2 or 3 different types of sprays. If you're using a saline spray, you don't get any bounce back. It's just to kind of clear the nasal passageways of mucus and foreign material. Perfectly fine, no issues with that. The other sprays that are available are a topical nasal steroid spray, which people with allergies or nasal congestion will suffer with, which are also fine. You can use a nasal steroid spray such as Flonase, which is fluticasone, or Nasonex, which is mometasone. Those are 2 of the leading over-the-counter nasal steroid sprays. But people get into problems when they're using a decongestant, right? Like Afrin, because it works so well. The inclination is to use it if you're congested, but the body physiologically will rebound after 6 or 8 hours, where the decongesting wears off and the nose becomes super congested. So what's your inclination? To spritz again. So you get caught in this vicious cycle, and there's actually a medical name for it. We call it rhinitis medicamentosa. And that's where an ENT or an allergist can really help you out, because we need to break that cycle, your addiction to nasal decongestant sprays.
And it can be that way, quite addicting, because gee, I'm going to go out, I'm going to use it, and then I'll do it again in 4 hours or 5 hours,
Exactly.
and weeks later, right?
It's actually very common, and it's very hard to break that addiction without some help from a professional.
So your love seems to be, besides taking care of this from a medical point, but from a surgical point as far as making people look better. So what is that like on the process? You're examining somebody and their nose, you see that they've got a polyp in there, and they bring up about their nose, it's been broken before.
Right.
What does that conversation sound like with somebody?
Well, I'm going to correct you if I may. It's not just necessarily to look better, but to function better. Okay, somebody comes in, they're having difficulty breathing. We might identify there's polyps or just a deviated septum. And really the art here is trying to improve their nasal airway without altering or impacting their appearance in a negative way. Okay. And often surgery can be combined. If somebody is having surgery to correct a deviated septum and they don't like the appearance of their nose, we can change the shape of their tip. We can take down a nasal hump. We can straighten a crooked nose. And a lot of that is not purely cosmetic. A lot of that is functional as well.
As I asked you before,
Yep.
sort of rhetorically, how does a nose know to go back to be a nose and not something else? How do you, as a surgeon, make that right? It's an amazing thing.
Yeah. Well, that's the art of the practice of medicine. It takes a lot of training, a lot of years of executing this type of surgery, a lot of practice. And it's really essential to understand the anatomy and what you can get by with to change the appearance of somebody's nose. When somebody comes in to see me for an aesthetic consultation, I try to really enforce to them, I can't give you somebody else's nose. I can take your nose and improve the appearance of your nose. If people come in with a picture from a women's magazine and like, I want to look like Elle McPherson or whatever it is, I said, you know what? I can't achieve that. We have to work with your face and allow me to alter the appearance of your nose so it complements your beauty, not somebody else's.
So frequently we see people think, well, I'll go in, I'll get some surgery done, and 4 or 5 days later, everything's going to be perfect. How do you calm somebody's expectation as far as recovery and as far as the end result that they think they might want versus what may or may not happen?
I do tend to use morphing photographs in my practice. So we take pictures and I do some morphing to give patients a realistic expectation of what their outcome will look like. And I really try to stick to that. And I take patients' photos post-op and I compare them to the morphs as well, just to show them this is what we were trying to achieve and this is what we were able to hopefully achieve with the surgery that I executed.
So as far as the plastic surgery, you were in New York for many, many years. You
Right.
came here. Does Miami and Broward and Palm Beach have a lot more plastic surgery here than where you were in New York?
I would say so. Yeah, there's a lot of plastic surgery that's being performed down here. I think the population's a bit older here, particularly in Broward County, and a lot of people are having their faces and their necks done. But there seems to be more attention to aesthetics in Miami than in New York City, is my impression.
This is Miami.
This is what I'm discovering here, Michael.
So we know that as far as particular type of surgery, because it's Miami, all right, we're way up there on top as far as breast surgery.
Right.
And it's terrific. And, we have the beaches, whatever all that means,
Right.
across there. So frequently, 15 years ago, lots of men were getting hair transplants, but
Right.
it certainly changed a lot over the years,
Right.
where it seems to be a little more civilized than before.
Yes.
So if you haven't done those, but tell us about the process of it getting to where it is today.
Hair is not my expertise,
Right.
but I am familiar with a lot of the achievements that have been made over the last 10 or 20 years. Previously, people were having hair plugs. I clearly remember friends from college that would come back after the semester break with like a hole punch appearance in their forehead. But that's the way hair transplant was performed previously. But now they're doing micro plugs where they're transplanting 1 or 2 hair follicles. So, over the course of time, you're able to borrow from Peter, give to Paul, and not end up looking like you've had major surgery done.
I remember those early days. Some guys looked like a corn patch.
Exactly.
And over the years, he was finally able to correct it. It was probably by adding in more.
Right. Not flattering at all.
Yeah, it was like terrible. And he was all the way like this. I said, oh my God. And you couldn't even have a conversation with him without staring at
Exactly. Very distracting.
So one of the things that when I speak to guys, they say what they learned was started sooner than later, so that the natural hair loss is going to occur anyway.
Correct.
So you don't lose. They're not starting from all the way back here and trying to fill, rather than starting it at whatever age that is. And some people think that the hair thing is a forever thing. But correct me if I'm wrong. The hair in between that's natural, it's going to continue on its journey of falling out.
It will over time, for sure.
So tell us about. Is there a relationship to that changing as to a nose would change or a breast would change?
I think that's very individualized. I'm not really sure if hair loss and the graying of your hair is really related to what's going on in terms of changes in your nose or the rest of your body. But we do know that age will affect the nose, for example, along with the face and the sagging of skin and things like that. All of those things, everything heads south with time. But even the nose, you'll start to get some droopiness of the tip, and the cartilages will soften up, and that will contribute to, disturbances with sleep, for example. Obstructive sleep apnea can come just with the aging process.
So people you fix their sinuses,
right?
And have some of them shown real dramatic improvement as far as their sleeping?
Oh, for sure. Yes. So we use a term, sleep disordered breathing, poor sleep hygiene. Often it comes from deviated septum, polyps in the nose, changes in the oral cavity, relaxation of your palate. And if you can correct those deformities, you may be able to achieve better quality of sleep, perhaps avoid using a CPAP device if that was in your future. So there's a lot of positive aspects of performing surgery to help folks with sleep apnea.
So for the folks that have sinus or nasal obstruction, they've sort of grown used to it. It's just the way that it is. So what causes them at some point to go, I got to go get this checked out?
I think often it's your spouse or your partner giving you a little elbow on your side.
A little elbow?
Yeah, a little nudge, because you're snoring, or perhaps even worse, not only snoring, but you're actually stopping to breathe, what we call sleep apnea, where there's no movement of air. And people will generally wake up tired. They just don't feel like they got good rest. They're not getting good sleep hygiene. So that will prompt a visit to an ENT or a pulmonologist.
If people they think they have a little problem and they don't want to go to the doc, there's some apps you can put on your phone and it'll record your sleep.
Oh, yeah.
And you can here and say, oh my goodness, look at that.
Very accurate. Yes, that's another indicator to help give you some guidance as to what's going on.
And then they have to wind up, and some doctors are going to go, well, you should. And the reason I got I was in the hospital for some reason. He goes, I think you should go get a test. And even though
sleep study.
Yeah, study. That was it. Even though he wasn't there for that reason, but he was looking at me. Go, this is your age, this is your height, this is your weight. Statistically, I know
exactly
that you're a candidate for that, so just go get it checked out.
And I do think that the public should recognize that there's a lot of information that can be gleaned from a sleep study. Now we can do them at home. Usually it's done over a period of 1 or 3 nights or in a sleep facility. But if you're found to be suffering with moderate to severe sleep apnea, you definitely should seek medical help for that.
Because people are going to feel better.
Not only feel better, but there's a lot of negative medical things associated with sleep apnea. Heart disease, high blood pressure, forgetfulness, things like that are hard to measure.
When at first I didn't like it, then after a while I said, you have to do it. You're going to feel better. And I can't say it was instant, but within a month, I said, my sleep is different today than it was last month.
Yes.
So my hat's off to the doctors that led me down that path.
Definitely.
Right. So how do you balance somebody's need to fix something that's broken and their desire to also make, while they're there, do something to make them look better? and they say, "Hey doc, since you're up there, can you fix whatever it is?"
Right.
What's that conversation sound like?
I try to get a feel for what the patient is looking for, what their ultimate goal is. Is it truly just a functional improvement? Are they trying to change something about their appearance that's going to impact their self-esteem? Really try to get a sense of where they're going with their questions, because I don't like to end up with patients that are dissatisfied with their ultimate surgical, let's call it an adventure. If it's for aesthetics or if it's for function, I try to get to the heart of what the patient is desiring. And if there are significant cosmetic issues, yes, we will take pictures, we'll sit down, we'll go over the pictures, we'll do some morphing and try to get a sense of what the patient's expectations are in terms of changing their appearance.
Okay, the morphing is a machine. You take pictures and you change.
Yeah, you can lower the height of the dorsum to take away their hump. If the nose is crooked, you can straighten the nose and give people a sense of
Is that
how
the one
they're
the
going to look
cops use now to identify people?
I
They don't do it by hand anymore.
I haven't seen, I'm not familiar, I can't say.
So, tell us if you will, what all of this right here, from here to here, the ideal health situation between the ears, and if they feel full, right, and whether it's a cold or whether it's just clogging, or whether they should clean their ears, don't clean their ears,
Wow.
if they got stuff up their nose.
Wow, how much time do you have?
This is the short version.
Well, in general, I think it's important that your ears are working properly. Okay, we know that with the aging process, people will tend to lose hearing. They're going to drop off their high frequencies first. If you haven't had a hearing test by the time you're 65 or 70, you really should have a hearing test done. And we know if you're suffering with hearing loss, the sooner you get involved with hearing aids, the less likely the advent for senility. So people that stall and don't feel they need to get involved with hearing aids are really doing themselves a disservice by putting it off. It's important to keep your ears clean, okay? Either by coming in to see an ENT. There's a lot of controversy over whether people should or should not use Q-tips. Truth be told, I do use Q-tips myself, and I think if you use them properly, it's the best way to help prevent wax from accumulating. But that's very controversial, and our academy definitely does not support the use of Q-tips, okay? But it's essential that you recognize how important hearing is.
So this is my personal experience. I go to my regular doc. She says, Michael, you should get your hearing tested. I go, I know. She says, here's what happens, Michael. You become reclusive because you can't hear the conversation. Your spouse is tired of repeating the same question 4 times.
What?
Huh? And you'll wind up nodding your head, and then it's also a precursor to senility, right?
Absolutely.
And so I resisted, and then I started asking people. I can't tell you how many women did this. They throw their hair back in the hearing aids.
Exactly.
And I went, oh. So I went to a big box store, quite affordable, a 3-year guarantee. They have a 2-year, if you lose them, they replace them for 2 years. And you have 6 months to return them if you don't like it.
Okay.
I go, well, what else do you want?
Right.
I go in, they go, well, gee, Mr. Miller, I said, I know I got all that stuff. Let's just get them in. And so I wear them almost all the time. And I was out to dinner with some folks the other day, and the friend, this woman talked for 2 hours straight, and I had to listen to everything. I happened to run into them a week later. They were at dinner, the husband and the wife. I walked over to her. I took out my hearing aids. I put them in my pocket. You can talk as much as you want because I'm not going to be able to listen to you this time. And the hearing aids set me free. Absolutely, 100%.
Bravo.
Yes.
Bravo
and
to you.
It's on my phone. You can turn it up or down. Sometimes I'll go to a restaurant and I'll turn it up and tell my wife, I'm listening to the people back here.
Yeah.
It has completely changed everything. The freedom that I feel, that I know if people would just take that opportunity to go see it.
I think it comes down to one word: stigma. Okay, there was a big stigma, a negative stigma associated with the use of hearing aids. You could see them. They were large, they were bulky, but with modern digital technology, they're all digitized, right? And basically all of the mechanics are sitting behind your ear.
Yep.
And to your credit, I didn't even know you were wearing hearing aids until I started to look more closely, and I could see.
Each doctor I went to.
Almost imperceptible.
Yes, thank you. Yes. And the doctor I go to said, Michael, we've been through this. You have a hearing loss.
Right.
When you're ready, you can do something. And it was really interesting. It was when I inquired to people, when I became part of that tribe, like, oh my goodness, it's so much, it's very common. I didn't realize how common it was. I thought, what do I need hearing aids for?
Sure,
right?
You're invincible.
And so, and what happened is now I can have a conversation with people. Right now, I have selective hearing when I want. All right, but it works.
The other pros, right?
So
yes, I think it's very, very, very important that people realize how important it is to get involved with hearing aids sooner rather than later, and to remove the stigma associated with wearing. It's like glasses.
Yes.
You know, you wouldn't leave home without your glasses, right?
So I have 4 or 5 pair. I've had these things operated on so many times, and then you realize even with all of that, it's just more comfortable when I put on the glasses. I won't have to struggle. And
exactly.
And so, and people would be surprised how many of their peers are wearing
hearing aids.
It's.
I'm so glad that you introduced the subject. It's very important.
It is
critical.
My whole family's happy, you know, and then I'm happy, right? And if I forget find my hearing aids. It'll tell me where they are.
That's amazing.
And it's like they're either at the home or in a pocket someplace. It's very.
Were you satisfied with the big box store?
100%. 100%.
Great.
And there were people that were more money, whatever. I said, listen, I didn't want to go get tested. I already knew that I needed it. It was only a matter of what I felt most comfortable with. And I looked at it from, at that point, I was, you know, playing with my head. Okay, this place will take them back after 6 months. It's affordable. If you lose them, they'll replace them.
Right.
Right? And I'm thinking, okay, that's perfect. And that was really what I was concerned about. Would I be able to hold on to these things, all right, without losing them? Sure enough, when I get home, I put them in the thing, right?
Great.
So now that's certainly something that people of, you know, over the age of 60?
60, 65, that's a good place to start.
And certainly after that, it continues, you know, to decline.
I will say one thing, just one plug for seeing an audiologist as opposed to going to the big box store. It's important to have access. If your ears become clogged with earwax, the audiologist might be able to help you with that. Sometimes the devices themselves get filled with wax and the audiologist will be able to clean them for you. I don't know if those services are necessarily provided or if they're equal at the big box store, you know. So
anyway, it's been a delight talking to you. And we're going to do this again. You are really good at this. All right.
Thank you.
That's terrific. So again, if somebody wants to reach you, we're going to put his website up. There it is, drportnoy.com.
Dr. Portnoy, yes.
Okay, and you have on there some of the facial work that you've done.
Yes, I do. I have some before and after pictures, and I'm always adding to it. So
we like before and after.
It's a work in progress. But thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
It's been so much fun.
Thank you so much for being here. Again, so you probably had a lot of mentors in your life, people that have helped you on your journey.
I have.
Okay. If we could put the camera on them, you can please look over here. And why don't you thank them? Look at this camera right here. So why don't you thank them whether they're with us or not? And if you want to use their name, that would be great.
Sure. I mean, I think most doctors would agree with the sentiment that we're sort of standing on the shoulders of giants. And in my own career, I would say number one is my father, who was a foot doctor who unfortunately passed away last month at the age of 97. He was my number one mentor. But in the world of otolaryngology, I have to pay homage to my teacher, Dr. Cho from New York City, who's still with us, and Dr. Sebastian Arena, who was my mentor when I performed my head and neck and reconstructive fellowship in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So these were huge influences on my life, and they've afforded me the ability to do what I do successfully. So thanks to my mentors.
Great.
Thank you.
Doctor, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And folks, again, thank you for joining us, and take care of yourselves and your family. Have a good day.